Hey there, everybody. We are here with our next week in our book club, and we are doing the book Captivate, and that's by Vanessa Van Edwards. This was our Jubilee speaker, and it's all about just kind of how to communicate and interact with people and create lasting impressions, right? Jenny is going to start us with chapter 2.
Yay. All right, chapter 2 is Capture, How to Make a Killer First Impression. The audience sits in hushed anticipation. The Pittsburgh Symphony Orchestra is already assembled on stage, tuning their instruments expectantly. The sold-out Heinz Hall is filled with 2,676 people. Everyone is waiting for conductor Arild Romariet, to take the stage. The problem is that Romariet is not supposed to be here. The audience knows it, the orchestra knows it, and Romariet certainly knows it. When the famed German conductor Christoph von Boniel, somebody, became ill a few days before the show, the Pittsburgh Symphony Orchestra had to find an immediate replacement. They turned to Romariet. In a matter of days, Romariet, a tall, energetic Norwegian, had to find a way to learn and conduct the entire program with an orchestra he had never worked with before. Of the 3 scheduled pieces in the program, Romariet had only ever conducted one before in a concert. When I interviewed him, he confessed, "Before walking out, I was incredibly nervous and was going on almost no sleep to get ready for the performance." To add even more pressure, New York Times reviewer James Ostrich was in the audience. As Romariet finally takes the stage, the audience holds its breath. He has only a few seconds to make a strong first impression. For Romariet, it's all about finding a way to create trust. He has to convince the audience he can lead them through a new set and show the orchestra they should follow him. He approached the podium like a diffident schoolboy, but once there, he showed utter self-confidence using clear and wide-range gestures, observed Ostrich. Marriott leads the orchestra through a sensational performance of Wagner's Siegfried Adele and then a dynamic reading of Schumann's Fourth Symphony. He finishes with Brahms' Second Piano Concerto and finally a Chopin waltz as the encore. The audience is thrilled. "The only thing listeners seemed to want to talk about afterwards was Mr. Romariet," replied Ostrich. "Mr. Romariet radiated a joy in music making. Several listeners said. Inevitably, his boyish good looks, expressive podium manner, and understated charisma were noted, but so was what some perceived as an unusual rapport between conductor and players." The news of Romariet's magnetic performance spread. He was quickly rehired in Pittsburgh and made additional debuts with the Baltimore Symphony, Milan's Philharmonic della Scala, Munich Philharmonic, and the Vienna Symphony. "The musicians know within 5 minutes whether a new conductor is any good or not," he said later. "What did he do right in those first 5 minutes?" Can I just say those were some of the hardest words I've ever seen in my entire life, all put into one little section. Have you ever met someone who you just clicked with? Within the first few seconds, you somehow knew you would get along. Have you ever met someone who rankled you right from the start? You didn't know exactly what it was, but something about them just bothered you. Whether we like to admit it or not, we decide if we like someone, if we trust someone, and if we want a relationship with someone within the first few seconds of meeting them. However, we rarely think about our first impressions. And if we do, we aren't quite sure how to make them better. So we practice what we want to say, we plan witty jokes, and hope for the best when it comes to those early moments. Researchers Nanali Ambati and Robert Rosenthal at Harvard University wanted to test the power of our snap judgments. They decided to look at students' perceptions of their professors. Our judgments of teachers should only be made based on their actual teaching content, not on their looks, behavior, or presence. However, this is not how we operate. For the experiment, Ambati and Rosenthal showed muted 10-second video clips of professors teaching to outside participants who rated the teachers on 15 dimensions of effectiveness, including warmth, optimism, and professionalism. The evaluators had to make judgments based entirely on nonverbal clues. Ambati and Rosenthal looked at the results and wondered if they could change the ratings by shortening the clips. So they cut the clips from 10 seconds to 5 seconds. The ratings did not change. Then they cut the clips from 5 seconds to 2 seconds. The ratings still did not change. They concluded that we make a snap judgment in the first 2 seconds of meeting someone, and we rarely adjust it, even when we get more information. We decide if we believe someone, if we like someone, and if we trust someone before we've ever even heard him or her speak. What character judgments could you confidently make after watching someone move in a room for 2 seconds? Could you guess how honest they are? How nice? How supportive? Even though you would have very little content to judge, you already mentally ask and answer these questions within seconds of meeting someone. And the crazy part is, you're pretty accurate. Here's the most interesting part of the study. Embody and Rosenthal took the ratings from each of these clips and compared them to the student evaluations of the same teachers after an entire semester of classes. Again, they were surprisingly similar. Teachers who got poor rankings from the 2 second clips also got low rankings from students who took a semester's worth of classes. You can bet that those teachers spent many hours agonizing over their curriculum, practicing their teaching method, and spending time bonding with students before and after classes. According to Embady and Rosenthal, this is not what really mattered. Students decided how effective teachers are within the first few seconds of walking into the room. The same thing happens to Rameret when he takes the stage, and the same thing happens to you when you enter a room. Intimidated by the speed of the first impression? Don't be. This is good news. If it only takes a few seconds to convince someone you're worth talking to, let's supercharge the first few seconds. You can use the first impression to hack an entire interaction. Leveling up. First impressions are a survival mechanism. When you meet a new person, you have to quickly decide if you want them in your life. Ever heard of the fight or flight response? It's a way your body instinctively reacts to external stimuli and decides if you should stay or flee. This is why first impressions are so swift and decisive. We're trying to answer 3 basic questions about a new person during the first few moments of an interaction. Level 1, are you a friend or a foe? This is our subconscious personal safety check. We're thinking, darling, you got to let me know, should I stay or should I go? Level 2, are you a winner or a loser? When we first meet someone, we want to quickly assess their confidence. Do they look like a leader or a follower? Level 3, are you an ally or an enemy? It's one thing to see someone as non-threatening, but the last level is when you decide whether someone should be on your team. Your brain wants to know if this person likes you enough to back you up. When someone successfully answers all 3 questions, we level up and trust them more. Strangers become acquaintances. Acquaintances become friends. Prospects become clients. These are, of course, the 3 questions people are also trying to quickly answer about you. How does this phenomenon play out when a speaker is in front of a big audience? In a TED Talk, for example? I'm a TED Talk junkie. Most days I find a juicy talk at lunch to accompany my sandwich. One day I typed leadership into the search bar and 2 videos popped up. One was How Great Leaders Inspire Action by Simon Sinek, and the other was Learning from Leadership's Missing Manual by Fields Wicker Murin. Both talks were about 18 minutes long. Both talks came out in September 2009. Both talks were given by respected, thoughtful leaders in their field. But there was one difference, and it was a big one. Sinek's talk had 24,905 and 905,052 views, while Wickerman's talk had only 725,663. Why such a big difference? By virtue of being selected for TED Talks, both speakers were vetted prior to their presentation. TED goes to great lengths to keep their presentation style consistent and pick the best speakers from around the world. All of these speakers have amazing ideas. What gives? I designed a research experiment in our lab to find out. And just so I can go back, that first talk was 24 million views, not 24,000. Yeah, I was like, what? Okay, we wanted to see if Embady and Rosenthal's findings would be applied to TED. First, we had a group of participants watch full-length TED Talks and give each speaker a score on credibility, charisma, intelligence, and overall performance. Participants were not able to see the view counts to avoid skewing their perceptions, and we verified that they had not seen the talks before. Next, we gave scoring sheets to a second group who saw 7-second clips of the same TED Talks. Guess what? No significant difference in opinion. Is it possible that we decide if we're going to like a TED Talk within the first 7 seconds? How do the top TED Talkers pass through all 3 levels of trust so quickly? We had our coders analyze hundreds of hours of TED Talks looking for differences between the least and most viewed videos. We counted hand gestures, measured vocal variety, smiling, and body movement. We found that there were patterns. The power of our first impression lies not in what we say, but how we say it. The most popular TED Talkers leveled up their audiences before even getting to their big idea. They did this by using what I call hack number 2, the triple threat. Make a powerful first impression by non-verbally hacking all 3 levels of trust. In showbiz, performers are a triple threat when they can act, sing, and dance. With a first impression, you're a triple threat when you use your hands, your posture, and your eye contact. These are the three nonverbal weapons you can use to pass through all three levels of trust. These are what Arlid Ramirez uses when he enters the stage. They are what the top TED Talkers use on that little red carpet, and they're what you should use anytime you're interacting with someone. Skill 1, use your hands. The top TED Talkers use a very specific mechanism to instantly build trust with their audience: hand gestures. The least popular TED Talkers use an average of 272 hand gestures. Yes, our coders painstakingly counted every single one. The most popular TED Talkers use an average of 465 hand gestures. That's almost double. Temple Grandin, Simon Sinek, and Jane McGonigal topped the hand gesture charts with over 600 gestures in just 18 minutes. This effect isn't specific to TED Talks. Robert Gifford, Chuck Van Ning, and Margaret Wilkinson found that job candidates who use more hand gestures in their interviews are more likely to get hired. Why do hand gestures have such an impact? Hands show intention. Think back to caveman days for a moment. When a stranger approached our caveman ancestors, the best way to tell if the stranger had good or bad intention was to look at their hands. Were they carrying a rock or a spear? As the stranger introduced themselves, our ancestors watched gestures to make sure they weren't going to reach out and attack or steal precious belongings. Even though the modern times we aren't often subjected to physical harm, this survival mechanism remains. This is why in most cultures we shake hands as a way of greeting, and why the first thing police officers yell at criminals is "get your hands up." When someone can see your hands, they feel more at ease and are more likely to befriend you. This is an easy one to implement. When you walk into a room or waiting to meet someone, keep your hands out of your pockets. I know, putting your hands in your pockets is so comfortable and so casual. It's so cowboy. I don't mean to get drastic, but pockets are murderers of rapport. Yes, I said murderers. That's because the absolute easiest thing you can do to improve your first impression is to keep your hands visible. Every time you put your hand in your pocket, you scream "murderer" in your head. That will help you remember. Pockets aren't the only problem. Don't let desks, purses, or laptops block your friend makers. Whenever possible, keep your hands above the desk in a boardroom, on the table during a coffee meeting, and out of your purse during an event. Getting handsy is a 1-2 punch for trust. First, you have to have hands visible, and then you go in for the perfect handshake.
Hey, Jenny, for a second. So, when she was talking about, let's see here, when she was talking about so the feedback's really bad right now. Can you mute for a second? Let's see if that helps. Okay. That helped a lot. So when it talks about first impressions and all that good stuff, and talks about like people, a 7-second clip, and they decide whether or not they want to watch it. Oh my God, I totally do that, because I look at YouTube videos all the time for like motivation and all this other stuff. And usually like I have so many videos that I have started and listened to less than 30 seconds and like, nah, this isn't for me. Nah. No, and they may have a really good message, but I'm like, I don't know if it's the tone of their voice or the video, and, who knows, maybe it's a hand gesture thing, but that's interesting with the hand gestures and stuff. I talk my hands a lot, but I think that's really interesting. I think that the thing with the hands in the pocket's really funny. Murderer. Think murder. Although as women, we don't put our hands in our pockets quite as much because we don't have pockets or they're too small. So we kind of sometimes will hook, but not necessarily like hands in quite like men do.
One of the things that I look for, like if I'm buying a sweater or something like that, is if it has pockets, because I put my hands in my pockets all the time. But yeah, so I should probably quit. But the other thing I was looking at too is when she was talking, I always thought it was a really bad thing that I did, because I, like, within the first probably 30 seconds of talking to someone, I pretty much have decided whether I'm going to have anything to do with them or not. And sometimes I've changed my mind, like as I get to know them, but generally even after that, something will happen down the road where I knew I was right to start with. And I'm just like, yep. Should have held on to that first thought, because yeah.
Well, it's funny because I was listening to something this morning and they were talking about babies and how babies don't have any, this was like a thing on programming and like the programs you have in your head and stuff. And it talked about babies don't have any programming. And so they don't have any of these preconceived notions that we have when we walk in and we see somebody blonde and we remembered we hated a blonde person all these years ago. You know, it's stupid programming like that. That's absolutely ridiculous, but we all have it, right? But it's kind of the same. And so they said, think like babies, right? You're just like open and receptive and all of that. And so it's kind of that way, you know, you have to kind of almost force yourself when it comes to first impressions to think like babies, but at the same time, babies also, because they have nothing else like for the judge, right? Like they will make a decision very quickly. I don't like you. And you can see it. They'll kind of recoil. They'll start to cry when somebody's like, hi, sweetheart. And they'll start to cry, you know, and it's just like, and that can be a legitimate scare. Like, you know, you just kind of were really loud and came in really fast and scared them. But, you know, I was thinking about that and it's like, yeah, it's true. I mean, that's a lot of pressure on the first 7 seconds of meeting somebody. And it was funny because she was talking about walking into rooms, and I'm thinking about all like when doing networking and things like that, like how do I walk into the room? Do I put something? I don't put my hands in my pockets because I typically don't have that situation going on for me to put hands in my pockets. But, you know, I'm like thinking about it. I'm like, do I come into the room and like kind of easy breezy, or do I come in the room kind of stressed out, find my seat, do it, what, you know what I mean? So I don't know. It got me thinking as you're kind of going through, like, what do I do?
And if you think about, a lot of people will walk into a room and if they're not comfortable right away, they'll start messing with their phone. Like they're busy.
Yeah.
Like I'm busy right now, so I can't, you know, I'm not uncomfortable, I'm busy.
Or look at papers. Like if there were papers on your seat, they started looking at all the papers. Hey, Lori.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, I was thinking when you said that, how you walk into a room, I think a lot has to do with facial expression.
Yeah, like resting bitch face. Yeah.
Right. Like if you've got a look on your face just because you're uncomfortable, people might judge you in that first 7 seconds, like that they're not approachable.
Right. Or if you look stressed, right? You see somebody look stressed, what do? Do you run right up to him and go, hi, my name's Ellen? No, you're like, I look stressed. I'm going to stay away.
You look stressed. You look like you need me.
I go towards the smiley people.
Right.
Like in a networking thing, I'll go towards the smiley people. The ones that look open, you know?
Yeah. For sure. Yeah. That's what was going in my head. And I'm sure it was going in yours too, Lori, because I know you do stuff like that. But I was just kind of like, And even rally, you think about like when we had stuff in person, there were people that would come in and they would come in like a tornado. You know, you could see that they had a big black cloud over their head. They'd come in and you're just like, what's up with her today? And sometimes we'd say that. We'd be like, did you see so-and-so? What's up with her? She must be having a stressful day. Now, because we know them, we would go up to them anyways. Like, we'd be like, hey, what's going on? You seem totally stressed. You know, like, but if we didn't know that person and like, you know, say you were a new consultant, you were there and you see a leader come in and they look all like, whoa, does that make you want to be a leader? No.
I was wondering why when Dwayne and I came to our first rally, nobody talked to us. Maybe we weren't inviting looking.
That was totally it. Yeah.
No, they were all standing back there like, who are they with? Who are they with? I'm like, they're with me. I'm like,
back off. Just back off. Yeah.
Yeah, we do that. Like we get somebody come in and we're just like, they're like, or we walk over and we're like, see them? They're with me. That's right.
But what about people that, I'm bad about this, and I know I'm bad about this, deciding whether or not somebody is fake. Like that is one of my first judgments. I don't care if they come in with a smile on their face. If it's a fake smile, it's worse to me than if they come in with resting bitch face. Seriously. Right. I would rather have a genuine look on somebody's face than somebody that comes in and is like, hey, everybody. And you know, they're thinking, and I'm immediately thinking, no. Nope, over there.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's, I don't know. And do you think we all have our own personal things that make those judgments? Like,
yes. Yeah, those are the programs that we all have in our heads of again, I know that was a stupid example. Like I had a bad experience with somebody with blonde hair, so I don't like people with blonde hair generally, like that. But it's a stupid example, but we do have things like that in our heads that kind of like, think about it. Okay, so the girl that was like my nemesis in high school's name was Alice, right? So anytime somebody's like, "Hi, my name's Alice," I'm like, "Alice, huh?"
Really?
And she drove a Monte Carlo. So anybody who drove a Monte Carlo is like, Monte Carlo. Okay. But that's a stupid example of programming, but we have that programming.
But it's not, because if you talk to people that are like pregnant and
Mhm.
you'll say, "Oh, I really like this name," and they'll be like, "No, I knew a girl with that name in the first grade and she was a little witch," and absolutely not. And you're like, "Okay, you're 42,"
Or they're like, "Yeah, I knew somebody in kindergarten and they peed their pants and they had like stupid stuff." But we have all that stuff in the back of our heads, and so it's hard to go against that and to kind of clear that out of the way. But yeah, and that leads to some of our first impressions. So no matter how we walk into a room, there are going to be some people that they have their own stuff going on, and it doesn't really matter how we walk in, we're not going to attract that. We're not going to track them, and that's okay. That just means they're not for us, but it is, but to kind of like, have the best odds, maybe Jenny, take your hands out of pocket, you murderer. No, keep them in. That's what's going to happen when they come out. But yeah, so I like the idea of like bettering your odds with people that you don't know whatsoever, that don't have an impression of you, but they may still have their own programming about stuff, but you can't, that's not your problem. It's nothing you can do about that.
Okay, we're going to do how to do a perfect handshake.
Yeah, let's try.
And I'm going to laugh. I have a feeling. Okay. Are you a friend or foe? A handshake shows a stranger you are safe enough to go palm to palm. But not all handshakes are created equal. Here are the top things you need to know about a great handshake. Dry. Nothing is worse than a slimy handshake. If you get nervous and your palms sweat, use my favorite napkin wrap trick. When you get to an event, order a drink from the bar and wrap a napkin around the glass. Hold this with your hand-shaking hand so the napkin catches your sweat before you shake. Vertical. Always keep your hand vertical with your thumb towards the sky. Offering your palm up is a nonverbal submission or weak gesture, and forcing someone into the palm up position by putting your hand out palm down can be seen as domineering and controlling.
It's funny. So we're both doing this. I'm like, palm up. Do I do that? Like, I'm like, I don't think I go in like.
I'm pretty sure I go straight in. I
go straight. Yeah, Laura, we're like this, like Lori's hands like.
Firm. Have you ever squeezed a peach to see if it was ripe? This is the kind of effect you want when shaking a hand, because everyone has slightly different ideas of firmness. With a peach, you squeeze until you feel a tiny bit of resistance. If it's really ripe, this comes fast and you stop squeezing. If it's not ready to be eaten, you can squeeze pretty hard without bruising the fruit. Same goes for people. Squeeze until you feel their muscles tighten and then stop. And for goodness sake, never give someone a limp hand, okay, also known as the dead fish. It's deadly for rapport.
Oh my God, Eric complains about that all the time. Like if he shakes somebody's hand and he's just like, "Oh, the dead fish." Like I don't know where that became a universal term for handshake, but everybody knows it. But yeah, he'll be like, "Oh God, we can't shake." Like it's like
this next part's awesome. Never ever skip a handshake. Don't replace it with a wave or a high five or, heaven forbid, a fist bump. Why? The moment we have skin to skin touch with someone, our body produces something called oxytocin. Oxytocin is the connection hormone. Researchers Paul Zak discovered the power of this little hormone, which he calls the moral molecule, to facilitate trust. This is why it's an essential part of answering the question, friend or foe. 2 million people have viewed his TED Talk. In it, he describes conducting experiments with oxytocin in which he manipulated the trust of participants simply by giving them a dose of the hormone. When you shake hands with somebody, your body produces the exact hormone you both need to build trust and then a deeper connection. Bottom line, keep your hands visible. Never skip a handshake. Be a winner. Answer the following questions. What is the most influential factor for professionals who want to earn the trust of potential clients? A, being an established, proven expert. B, having a high degree of confidence. C, demonstrating advanced expertise in their area. Or D, having a well-respected reputation. What did you guess? If you guessed B, having a high degree of confidence, you're correct. According to a major study done by Carnegie Mellon University, a professional's confidence is more important than the professional's reputation, skill set, or history. Why is confidence so important? As humans, we're constantly looking for winners. Winner. Oh, Lori, this is your chapter. Winner, a noun. Victor, a person likely to be successful. We like to have winners on our team. We like to be associated with winners. We like to be led by winners. Whether we like it or not, in the first few seconds of an interaction, we're trying to decide if the person we're speaking with looks more like a winner or more like a loser. The question is, what does a winner look like? Researchers Jessica Tracy and David Matsumoto wanted to know if there are universal winner and loser behaviors. Specifically, they examined how humans respond to success and failure. To do this, they compared how Olympic athletes behave after they win or lose a race. Do sighted, blind, and cognitively blind since birth athletes display the same forms of pride and shame after a match? The answer is yes. Across cultures, the behavior of winning and losing athletes was the same. Even congenitally blind athletes, who have never seen an athlete finish a race or suffer a crushing defeat, somehow mimic the gestures of other athletes. Winners take up as much space as physically possible. Frequently called power posing, this is when we raise our arms over our head, expand our chest, and tilt our head up. Losing athletes take up as little physical space as possible, also known as low power posing. Defeated athletes usually bow their heads, slump their shoulders, and pin their arms tightly to their sides. The fact that athletes instinctively use the same body language shows us how innately programmed we are to broadcast victory and defeat nonverbally. But why? Tracy and Matsumoto propose that pride and shame factor significantly in social signaling, providing rich information we use to make judgments of ourselves and others. Like athletes, when we are proud, we want people to notice us, so we take up space. When we feel defeated, we try to deflect attention by taking up as little space as possible. Now, as much as I want you to look like a winner, the traditional winner's pose is a bit much for everyday interactions. It would be odd if you ran into your meetings or dates like you just crossed a finish line. Highly powerful, but a bit socially aggressive. Instead, I use something I call the launch stance. This is a slightly toned down version of the winner's posture. Whenever you're talking to people, use your launch stance. Keep your shoulders down and back. Aim your chin, chest, and forehead straight in front of you or slightly up. There you go, Lori. Make space between your arms and torso. Flap your wings. Make sure your hands are visible.
Make it all about you.
So this isn't any weirder than this.
Hey, I say we come on to our next Zoom, and as soon as she starts, we're like, woo! That's not weird. What is this? Where are you supposed to put your hands to make them visible? Yeah, like I thought they were gonna say this was the pose. I can stand up. This pose.
Yeah, the power pose. Yeah.
There you go. How about this?
No. So Eric and I, talking about body language, so Eric and I were watching a football game. It wasn't this past weekend, maybe it was last weekend, and I can't remember who it was. But there was a guy and he was like back there waiting for it was like a kick return type of a situation. And each time the ball didn't come far enough, like he was like in the end zone waiting for it, right? Each time the ball didn't come far enough. And when it didn't come far enough, he'd undo his strap and he'd walk off the field. He was like a pouting toddler, like, didn't kick me the ball. And he's walking off the field, even his shoulders, like, I was like, oh, he's so sad he didn't get the ball. Then he did it again. He did it like 3 times, like every time. Take his chin strap off and like, oh, and like he's just like his arms are down his sides. kind of stomping out the field. We're like, what in the world is happening right now?
Special note, sometimes we accidentally go into loser body language when we check our phones. Oh, see? Think about it. You bow your head, cross your arms in front of your chest, pin your arms tightly to your side, and slump your shoulders in. What do most of us do while waiting for a client or before going into a meeting? We check our phones. This terrible cycle has to stop now. If possible, chat with colleagues, look calmly around the waiting room, or read a newspaper before an important engagement. If you want to check your phone, do it like a winner. Pivot the phone out and up to align with the launch stance. That's this. Bottom line, stand like a winner, look like a winner, interact like a winner. This was the launch stance, Lori, you missed it.
Well, you know what? I do that anyway because I can't see them. So holding it out like this would be okay.
Launch stance, also noted, also required the middle-aged stance.
Right, I need that distance so I can see the words.
And my head goes up so I can use my bifocals.
And therefore, winner.
There we go. Okay, engage with eye contact. Once we've decided someone is both trustworthy and a winner, we want to know if they should be on our team or not. This is the differentiator between a good first impression and a great one. Specifically, we're looking for indicators of alliance. Does this person like me? Would this person respect my opinion? Will this person include me? Sure, we like people who are trustworthy and confident, but if we don't think they will respect us, we never level them up. Most TED Talkers pass only the first two levels. They may indicate their trustworthiness with hand gestures and capture confidence with a broad stance. However, most don't know how to make the individuals in their audience feel cared for. They speak to the cameras, they speak to the slides, but they don't speak to you. How do you communicate your desire for an alliance? Imagine you're sipping on coffee during an afternoon break in a park. You see a mother reading a book on a blanket beside her toddler. The toddler spots a duck, so he looks up at his mom and says, "Look, a duck." The mother doesn't hear him, so her son pulls on her hand and says louder, "Mom, look, I see a duck." This time, mom registers it and murmurs, "Uh-huh, nice, sweetie." But the toddler isn't fooled. His mom wasn't really paying attention. So he starts jumping and tugging on his mother's arm, chanting, "Mom, mom, 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 mom." Finally, right as the toddler begins to cry, the mother puts her book down and looks at her son and says, "What is it?" The toddler smiles, points at the duck and points at the duck. "Oh," she exclaims and looks over at the duck with him. "How great, you love ducks," she says, turning to him and smiling. He sighs happily and they both resume relaxing. What happened? The toddler just wanted someone to share an experience with. Like all of us, he wanted an alliance. The best TED Talkers act much like a doting mother with their audience. They make eye contact with specific faces in the crowd and speak directly to them, making everyone watching feel like they truly matter. The sense of togetherness you get during a stellar TED Talk comes when you feel you're experiencing the slides and presentations along with the speaker. Viral TED Talkers speak to you, not at you. One of the most powerful examples of eye contact is in a video done by activist Jay West and her team at Liberators International. Their organization's stated mission on their website: we aim to coordinate, record, and distribute monthly global acts of freedom. Their YouTube channel is filled with many daring acts of kindness and unique public service announcements. In one video, the Liberators lead Australian subway passengers to sing an impromptu rendition of Over the Rainbow. I've watched that, actually. In another video, a woman stands in her underwear on a public street blindfolded. She asks people to draw hearts on her body with a permanent marker to raise awareness for eating disorders. Wait, I got... Did she not get arrested? I'm just asking.
She must have been in her bathing suit or something.
Well, this is underwear. All right.
Okay.
One of the most popular videos is called The World's Biggest Eye Contact Experiment. In this video, Liberators ask strangers to participate in a 1 minute of sustained eye contact with another stranger. We were definitely nervous going into it. It's quite confronting to stare a stranger in the eye and allow yourself to be vulnerable, said West. The results were overwhelming. Over 100,000 people participated in the experiment in 156 cities around the world. After just 1 minute of eye contact, stranger after stranger ended their moment in tears, hugs, and astonishment. As West concluded, holding eye contact with another person can evoke many feelings. It calls on true courage to trust another being. Why is eye contact so powerful? It produces oxytocin, the chemical foundation for trust. We're programmed to interpret it as a nonverbal sign of goodwill. When you like someone, you look at them more. Author Alan Pease described it this way. When person A likes person B, he will look at him a lot. This causes person B to think that person A likes him, so B will like A. In other words, in most cultures, to build a good rapport with another person, your gaze should meet theirs about 60 to 70% of the time. This will also cause them to begin to like you. It's not surprising, therefore, that the nervous, timid person who meets our gaze less than 1/3 of the time is rarely trusted. In those first few seconds, it's especially important that you overcome the impulse to look away shyly. You may be worrying that you'll use too much eye contact. How much is ideal? You may remember this question from the PQ quiz. In the average conversation, people typically hold eye contact what percent of the time? 31, 51, 61, or 91? I've asked this question to hundreds of audiences. The answer is usually evenly split. People have completely different ideas about how much eye contact is normal. British social psychologist Dr. Michael Argyle found that when Westerners and Europeans are in conversation, they tend to hold eye contact for an average of 61% of the time. Answer C. He found that 41% occurs while talking and 75% while listening. Next time you're talking to someone, try to objectively evaluate where you tend to fall on the spectrum. Some other things to keep in mind. Notice their eye color. Don't look over their head to scope out the scene. Hold eye contact for 60 to 70% of the time. Bottom line, use eye contact to build trust, gaze to produce connection. The ultimate
time out. So this is something that I've always struggled with at Rally when we were together in person, because a lot of times there was somebody I needed to talk to, there was somebody that needed to talk to me, and then I'm talking to somebody, you know, and it was one of those things that, and there was so much going on that it was very easy to like squirrel in that room, you know? And so I would try so hard to like be in the moment with this person and not worry about everybody else. But at the same time, I'm watching a door and I'm like, shoot, has so-and-so left already? I needed to give them something, or I needed to talk, you know what I mean? Like that was, and that's usually the only place I really struggle with that. Or if you're like expecting somebody, but it makes that person feel less than important when you're looking to see. And sometimes if it's like, so say I'm expecting my kids somewhere, right? And so I do need to keep a sharp eye out for them. I'll tell the person, I'll be like, hey, I'm keeping an eye out, you know, Ella should be coming along in a minute. I'm just trying to keep an eye out. And you just go, oh yeah, you know, but, and so usually I will, like, if it's something that is really important, like I really need to catch whoever this person is or whatever, I will try to let them know so that they know, like, I'm listening. I need to keep one eye over here. But it was something that I struggled with a lot at Rally, because every now and again, you know, you would have a conversation that would go a little bit longer and you were trying to kind of segue out of it because you needed to converse with a couple other people too. But I never wanted that person to feel like they weren't important. And so I felt like it was a tough balance, you know?
Well, it's especially hard when you have something important to talk to somebody about, and the person that you are talking to is chit-chatting about things that are not necessarily important
in that moment. Yes, yes, exactly.
And I think with Rally there was so much activity, you know. But when Jenny, when you're reading about eye contact, you know, I don't like when I talk to someone who cannot keep eye contact with me. I don't stare at someone, but having a conversation, you're looking at them, and then maybe, you know, they're writing something down and you look away. You're not staring at them like a murderer, but you need to have eye contact, right? And I think it's closer to like 80 or 90% when I'm talking to someone.
Yeah.
But if they can't look at me and they can't make eye contact, you know, they look around or they look to a different spot, or they never look at my eyes, then I don't care to have a conversation with that person. I agree. I don't like that.
I agree. And there's a trust thing. And so I remember being in high school and one of my friends was like, why don't you like that girl? And I said, because she spends, here's what I said. I said, she spends a lot of time with my boyfriend and she won't look me in the eye. I was just like,
And to
That's
bring,
why I don't like her. I'm sure she's a very nice person, but she does not make eye contact with me, and she's around Tim a lot, you know. And so I'm like, so what is she hiding? She wasn't. There was nothing there. But that's where, like, I'm just like, as a person, if somebody can't make eye contact with me, I try to give them the benefit of the doubt, like, oh, they're shy. But it's still like I don't trust them as fully as I trust somebody who can make eye contact with me.
and I think it goes what we believe, like from olden days or whatever, about trust and looking at people. I say the same thing to Delaney with social media. Like, she does a lot of snapping. Okay, they snap all day long. But if you're snapping with someone who will not snap their face and send you a picture, who's always snapping their elbow, the ceiling, the top of their head, I told Delaney, I'm like, if they never snap you showing them smiling, showing their face, then you can't trust that person and they're not interested in you. And she's like, Mom, but that's what I feel like. If they can't take a picture every, not every single time, like a clown or something, but if they can't snap their face and give you a facial something or other, if it's always inanimate objects, why waste your time? It's the same thing over social media.
I think it's the same thing for Zoom too.
Yeah.
Like we've been talking a lot about, if you can get your face on the camera, it's hard. And if you think back, especially when we first started having to go live in like parties and stuff, that was the biggest thing, was doing a demo, talking to yourself, even though you were on Facebook Live and you knew there were people watching, you couldn't see anything, you couldn't get any reaction. And there were times whenever I would think, how long have I been talking? Is anybody still listening? Oh my God, I'm bored with myself.
And then when you stop your video, you're like, holy crap, that was 15 minutes and I meant it to be 5. You're like, what happened? What happened? I told myself.
What did I say? I obviously did not know how to end that mess.
with Rally, right? We all know there are certain people, or not even Rally, Zooms in general. Without naming names, we know there are people that come on every single time without their face showing. Now, I understand some of us get busy. Nobody wants to see you walking around or going to the bathroom or doing whatever, but nobody is too busy to show their face while they're on Zoom. If you're at an appointment and you can't speak, then you shouldn't even be on Zoom. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. You have to.
I think that there definitely are exceptions. But when you think about it, like when it comes to our meetings in the Zoom thing, we want to build that rapport with our team. And since we can't see them face to face, this is all we've got. So, I mean, like, it's significant for them.
I think there are exceptions.
Absolutely.
But I find it hard to believe that it's every single time.
Right. I agree.
I mean, an exception is something that happens one morning that you didn't know was going to happen, or one night and all of a sudden company comes or the kids are sick or whatever. But when you know that you need to be somewhere at a certain time on a Zoom and you're never going to show your face, that's not an exception. That's a choice. That's a choice. And
that's a trust thing, right? It goes back to that. I'm just trying to say it. Everything kind of builds all together, like you don't trust someone who's got their hands in their pocket when you first meet them. It's all the same thing. You just apply it to the different, now we're all digital, but it's the same thing. I really like this book, and maybe I like it better because I'm not reading it. Maybe it's better to listen.
Because I'm so entertaining.
Every week, Lori. Miss a week, miss a chapter.
And I'm screwed.
All right, we have like 3 more paragraphs here.
3 more paragraphs.
Okay.
Do it.
The ultimate social weapon. Hands. Making a killer first impression is not about banishing social anxiety once and for all. Before Harold Rameret takes the stage, he still feels incredibly nervous. Famed TED talker Dr. Brené Brown says giving her TED talk was terrifying, and her talk is one of the most viewed TED videos of all times. One of the most anxiety-provoking experiences of my career was speaking at the TED conference in Long Beach. In addition to all the normal fears associated with giving a filmed 18-minute talk in front of an intensely successful and highly expectation audience, I was the closing speaker for the entire event, recalled Brown. However, Brown took the stage like a champion, her shoulders back, her hands out, when she made sure she could see her audience. When I finally walked onto the stage, the first thing I did was make eye contact with several people in the audience. I asked the stage manager to bring up the house lights so I could see people. I need to feel connected, said Brown. The triple threat is a tool you can use when your nerves are high. It'll both simplify the process of making good first impressions. Once you understand the science, it's not so big and scary, and allow you to relax by living more in the moment. Along with the most popular TED Talkers and Romerituses, you can make your first few seconds count by non-verbally showing your audience, you can trust me, I have a winning idea, and I'm here to help you. That's how we become memorable. Challenges. Don't guess on your handshake. Do a handshake audit with a trusted friend or colleague. Ask for honest feedback to make sure your grip is just right. Use your launch stance during your next interaction. Feel the difference? Practice engaging in 60 to 70% eye contact during your interactions. Chapter review. You have only a few seconds to make a killer first impression. Confirm trust by showing your hands. Be a winner with your launch stance. Use the right amount of eye contact. My biggest takeaway in this chapter is
I liked it all. Yeah.
Pockets.
Yeah, hands. Or
hands
yeah,
out of my
hands.
pockets.
I never use pockets. You use pockets?
I always use pockets.
I use pockets sometimes, but usually it's not like it's in a casual situation. Like it's not, I'm talking with a group of people that I know already. Look
Do
at
you
Barbara
ever notice?
putting her camera on. She's like, I can put my camera on too.
There you are, see?
Yeah, because Mondays I'm doing my laundry, so I don't have my camera on Monday because I don't think you need me see me running around the house.
We want to see your laundry, Barbara Ann.
I
Really?
really don't want to see y'all's undies while you're doing your laundry. I'm good. I'm okay.
You're
Sorry.
so cute.
But it was funny when you were reading about the eye contact. I was like, that's very important to me. If I can't see a person's eyes, I don't trust that person.
Yeah.
If somebody meets me for the first time and they have sunglasses, sunshades, I can't see their eyes, I don't trust them. And then I was like, and I don't have my camera on. That could be kind of like wearing sunshades. And then you started talking about the camera, and I was like, yeah.
Okay, so here's the thing
Guilty.
with you though. We think that because of the Amish thing, you can't have a camera on, so you have a pass. Now that we know you can have your camera on,
You don't have a
it's a
pass.
whole different thing.
Busted.
We were
Well,
giving
and
you the
I
Amish excuse, but you're done
I
now.
tend not to have my camera on in the evening if my husband's in the house because he's like a kid. He'll come and want to tell me something. I'm like, I'm on a meeting. No, so I tend not to have the camera on because, yeah.
Well, it sure is nice to see your face. I haven't seen your
know.
face in what, like a year and a half?
I know it's been a long time.
I actually got to hug her whenever we went to Lydia's husband's memorial, the celebration of life. She
Ah.
was there. I got a real hug.
Yeah, it was nice.
I know.
So,
Very good. Well, this was good. I feel like this chapter is really good. I like this book.
yeah, I like this book.
I do too. I will get it. I'll order it this week.
Right. Sure.
Sure. I'm so excited about this new Mel Robbins book. I can't stand myself.
What's that
I
one?
need to look and see if I swear I ordered
It's called
it.
High Five.
Oh, geez. Now we're going to have to do a high five for
Uh-huh.
people.
Let's see, my first book in almost 5 years is out. I'm overwhelmed, excited, nervous, and grateful to have your support. The High Five Habit is going to change millions of lives, including yours. Pre-order bonuses expire tonight, so if you're thinking you'll buy it, do it today. Click here.
I thought I ordered it, but I'm not seeing it.
Did you get it on Amazon, Jenny?
Yes.
High
Yeah, I
five.
pre-ordered it like 2 weeks ago, though, but it's
Okay. I'm going to order that.
Do you get her texts every day? Anybody?
Mm-mm.
No.
She has some of the most fun texts.
Yeah.
I think she's been like spying on my life, but it's okay. Like in case you hit some rough moments this week, I want you to remember every single challenge you face is preparing you for something amazing that hasn't happened yet, giving you a lesson of skill and experience or wisdom. These moments can be your greatest teacher if you choose to see them that way. So stop living your life like it's a race you're supposed to win. You're only running against yourself. Try and enjoy each leg of the journey. Keep your eyes ahead, your heart open, and no matter what, keep moving forward.
Wow, that's a long text.
I know.
That's a lot
So
of
you get her
words.
text. And you probably went to her website. Maybe I'll go to her website. I get texts every day from John Gordon. So
You do? I want John Gordon texts.
hey, listen, did you get on the live? Are we still recording?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's stop that. Bye.
Bye.